We have very short memories in politics.
True, but if you have liberal grassroots groups calling for the impeachment, not just of President Trump, but of Brett Kavanaugh, that's one way to keep the issue alive in the minds of voters. One thing we know about voters, they may take the economy, which is good, for granted. But if they see Democrats talking about issues that do not directly help or benefit them, like impeachment, and Republican ads now saying, well, the Democratic Congress that might take over could raise taxes, derail this economy, raise spending, increase regulation, then voters might have this in their minds when they go to the polls. And by the way, we now have election month, Shannon.
Yeah.
Over half the voters are going to be voting before Election Day.
Mm-hmm. You're so right, because there is so much early voting that now happens in 2018. So it's a big factor. Yeah, people are already out there getting in and casting their ballots. Something interesting in the Washington Examiner, writing about some of the new numbers in this new CNN poll, say independent voters overwhelmingly disapproved of the Democrats' handling of the nomination of Brett Kavanaugh by a 28-point margin. They were not impressed with the Democrats.
Well, one of the reasons President Trump has had trouble with women voters is they don't see him always as being mature. They don't see him as acting presidential. But then this last week, they had a chance to look at the other side of the coin and saw Democrats running roughshod over due process and fairness. And so, no, a lot of Republican suburban women may not be happy with President Trump, but compared to what? Compared to the alternative, which is the mob?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so in the CBS poll, they talked about the fact that a lot of these key Senate races, it's not even really about state issues anymore for a lot of the people who say that they plan to go vote. They say this: by more than 2-to-1, registered voters say national issues outweigh local ones. Across the states, large majorities of each candidate's voters, whether they're going for Republicans or Democrats, say their vote is explicitly to put either the Democrats or Republicans nationally in control of the Senate. Is that something new, or is that kind of what these Senate races have morphed into?
It varies from election to election whether or not one party can nationalize the issues. But since this is such an all-consuming issue a month before the election, this election now has been nationalized. And I will tell you from previous midterm elections, when elections are nationalized, it usually benefits Republicans because those are the kind of simple, clear issues that get their voters out. Okay,
most of the polls out there say there's not good news for Republicans in the House. There's good news for the Democrats. I want to refer to something in the Washington Post, this new set of polling that they've done. They went through 69 battleground House districts they say are critical. They say now there's a 4-point advantage for Democrats. In those same districts back in 2016, there was a 15% advantage for Republicans. So, do you think the House is lost for the GOP?
I think the Democrats are favored, but the Republicans can bounce back. You know, one thing we learned from 2016, Shannon, both in Brexit in Britain and with the Trump election, the polls make mistakes, and because this electorate is changing very quickly. The Washington Post poll is a snapshot of where those 69 races are right now, but it's a snapshot with a very blurry focus. I looked at the internals of how they did that poll. They interviewed about a few hundred people. The average number of people for each of those 69 districts they interviewed was 39 respondents. Now, that's not political science. That's throwing darts at the wall. And I have to tell you, the margin of error is blown away at 39 people being interviewed in a district. You can't possibly tell who's ahead.
Yeah, so we'll take it with a grain of salt. John Fund, thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
All right, California gubernatorial candidates go head-to-head on everything from immigration to criminal justice reform.